Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming. My name is Sediko. I'm the founder and the trustee of Progressive Socio-Economic Investment Institute. It is the public benefit trust that was established solely to do public benefit activities. One of those activities that we are doing is to host webinars on topical issues that are within the country. The socio-economic issues, you can name them. We host webinars on various topics that are happening in our country. Colleagues, you'll remember that a few days ago, the African National Congress celebrated its 111 years. African National Congress was established in 1912 in Mangaung. From 1912, the ANC never had what is called January 8 statement. The culture of having a January 8 statement started in January the 8th in 1972. The statement outlined the organization's program for the year, but between 1973 and 1978, there was a little bit of a pause of issuing the January statement. So it resumed in January 8, 1979. Those statements were issued by, when it was still in exile, they were issued by the president of the ANC from 1979 until today. Those who recall that in this January 8 statement, there's always a message or a theme that has been given to that January 8 statement. For example, in 1984, the theme was the year of the women. In 1985, it was a year of Al-Qaeda. In 1983, it was a year of united action. In 1982, it was a year of unity in action. In 1981, it was a year of the youth. You can go check within the various publication, you'll get all the themes. In 1986, it was a year of Mkondo Wesizwe, the People's Army. In 1987, it was a year to advance the people's power. Most of these themes changed post-1994, when the ANC started governing. For example, in 1994, it was the theme was the year of liberation for all South Africans. In 1983, if you go back, it was a year of votes for all. In 1995, it was a year to consolidate and deepen democracy. So all the themes that came post-1994 was related to the issues of governance, one way or the other. In 1997, it was a year of consolidating the National Democratic Revolution, a year of reaffirming the ANC cadre. Recently in Mangaung, and in past weeks, the ANC had its celebration, and the theme for that celebration was about also brought the issue of unity. But the person that is going to unpack the meaning of this ANC statement to the residents of Limpopo is one other than a well-known comrade within the politics of Limpopo and national politics. I'm not going to take long in introducing him. He's currently the ANC PEC member and PwC member in Limpopo, and is the head of political education for the ANC in Limpopo. Without a waste of time, comrades and colleagues, I'll hand over to Comrade Rodgers Monama. Over to you, Comrade Rodgers Monama.
No, thanks very much, and this Sediko Rakolote for affording us the opportunity to come and make some reflections on the January 8 statement of the African National Congress as held in Mangaung. And let me also take this opportunity to express my profound sense of gratitude for having other members on the platforms who wanted also to share what are the issues that are confronting us as a society, vis-a-vis what does it affect us as the African National Congress in terms of the roadmap that I think has been outlined by the President of the African National Congress, President Cyril Ramaphosa. And I will not be tempted to go into the details, but the topic, I think, is quite interesting, but also to ensure that all of us will derive the benefit out of what is going to unfold. And that does not necessarily mean that I'm having the monopoly of wisdom in the interpretation and outline what are the key priorities of this very same statement, because it was for the public domain to consume that very same statement. And allow me, with your indulgence, Chair, just to switch the video for the benefit of other people, otherwise will be experiencing some problems of connectivity. And just allow me to shoot. I think basically, Chair, like I said, that the topic is quite interesting. The January 2023 January statement was delivered in the Dr. Molemele Stadium in Bloemfontein, Free State Province. And it was delivered by the president of the country, marking the ANC 111 anniversary celebration. And the statement, I think, to all those who understand, is reflecting the party highest decision-making organ or body, which is the National Executive Committee of the ANC, setting the tone of what could be expected from the State of the Nation address as presented by the president of the country. And in this case, is the same president that is who has presented that statement on behalf of the African National Congress, but also is the same person who is going to present the same SONA on behalf of the African National Congress as the governing party, which is very critical and quite profound. And the statement must be, in understanding it, the balls and the nuts part of it, it must be explicit in terms of how to deal with formidable challenges as they are, but not insurmountable. And all the challenges ahead of the 2024 national polls, because there is a symbiotic relationship between the ANC's January statement and what we may expect government to implement as a matter of extreme urgency. And this year, I think you were also alluded to this fact that the statement which was delivered this year, the theme was the year of decisive action to advance the people's interest and renew our movement, which I think is quite poignant. And perhaps let me take you to the memory lane, like you have already alluded to what is the genesis and the political significance of the January statement. Basically, I think the statement is to inform, educate, conscientize, and mobilize all the motive forces behind the banner of our glorious movement. And that is the spirit and the purport in which the Oliver Tambo, when he started this tradition in 1972, just 4 years after the ANC watershed conference of Morogoro, which elected him as the president of the ANC after the death of the president of the ANC, Chief Albert Lituli, that Oliver Tambo was acting as the president. And watershed in the sense that that's where I think for the first time outside the country, the ANC held that successful conference where it was very robust, where comrades were able to echo their sentiments about how best they can refine and sharpen the machinery and the tools of analysis of how best they can hasten the issue of liberating us from the bondages of apartheid. And it was in that context that consistently the message delivered was consistent, clear, but crude, political and deeply embedded in the concrete issues facing the oppressed. And in a nutshell, the message was quite coherent, exhaustive, in details, and grounded in the people's language that epitomized by the African National Congress by then. And I think the reason why President Rolihlahla Mandela and President Mbeki decided to continue with the culture or the tradition of the January 8 statement, rallies post-1994, democratic breakthrough, was to ensure that the language of the ANC did not get lost through the uniformity of government programs, but also to ensure that the traditional language and radical politics of the revolutionary movement never got lost. And part of this organizational heritage was to build on the type of the dialect it utilized to interpret both the domestic and the international challenges facing the working class and other motive forces. One can call it what we call the vernacular of the revolution. So allow me to paraphrase what is encapsulated in the January 8 statement of 2023, retaining the substance as opposed to a verbatim reproduction of what has been outlined by the president on behalf of the NEC of the African National Congress. So, but what I wanted to caution is that much time must not be invested on elaborating why it is politically necessary to have a strong and formidable African National Congress, and the ANC that is more united in order to drive anything meaningful for South Africa. You'll understand it in the context that the ANC, I think, in terms of the history, is what we call is at the crossroad. What is needed and fundamental is that we need to ensure that there is a sustained unity and cohesion, which is quite sacrosanct, but it must be a unity of purpose. And very little time should be spent on lamenting on technical challenges such as unemployment, the energy crisis of ESCOM, which undermine the economic growth and investment prospect, and persistent load shedding destroying business and compromising the production of food and the provision of social services such as water, sanitation, community safety, education, health, and dysfunctional municipality. That's not the purpose of us as the governing party to spend much time lamenting on those issues, because households are increasingly finding difficult to meet their basic needs such as food, transport, and energy due to the rising cost of living. What our people now demand to hear is the fundamental change of their living conditions, and hope that we have a programmatic plan as the African National Congress to transform their lives. And they need sustainable solutions to create the reason why should people follow us, to salvage them from the quagmire of the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And ANC as the leader of the society and as a strategic force of the left, it must sound that is able to provide those solutions to the daily struggles that the people are experiencing. And it will be a wrong narrative on the party leading the country to say that we throw our hands on the air to say that we are unable to resolve those problems that our people are facing them. Of course, the statement is underpinned by the following priorities that must be radically change the well-being of our people. But just allow me just to look at or impress upon the severe weaknesses in all pillars of our struggle. That as the African National Congress, we must focus on in dealing with the shifting of the balance of forces, so that we become more hegemonic, but also become more relevant as the governing party. Firstly, the issue of the state and our ability to build a developmental state which is able to transform society and deliver to our people. Because one of the challenges that we are experiencing as the governing party is what we call the sense of incumbency. the sense of incumbency that now we are in government. That's why there is an overwhelming expectation from our good self to ensure that we transform the socio-economic conditions of our people. The other thing, which is one pillar that is very critical, is around the economy, which is not growing and absorbing unemployed young people. We need a strong and clear economic recovery plan. And already, I think the African National Congress has launched what we call the socio-economic recovery program, that or the social compact that is there to ensure that we revive the economy. But the other thing that as the party is around the issue of the battle of ideas, that as much as we have these good policies that we have, but we fail to communicate our vision, ideas and programs and unite all the motive forces behind us. But what is also obtainable is that our electoral performance is a cause for huge concern, and clearly shows that we cannot lead and persuade enough people of our to support the African National Congress and entrust us with the transformation and the development agenda and the trajectory that is facing us. But one overarching observation is about the issue of the society and the civil society. Many progressive forces and people's organization feels more alienated and disillusioned about the African National Congress, but also our inability to engage, involve, and represent progressive movement in a massive way. And those are some of the things that why we serve these NGOs that are there, your Section 27 and so forth, which mobilize people against the very same African National Congress. You are out about the toll gates and so forth. But also the issue of the renewal project that I think has been initiated in Mangaung in 2012. Whether we are making any dent in terms of mobilizing all the motive forces to ensure that we deal with those issues that have been identified as like the issue of the social distance by the African National Congress, the issue of the wanton factionalism, the issue of the commercialization of the membership, or what we call the money politics. Those were some of the things, few ills that I think have been identified. And the question that comes is whether we are able to address those matters and building of a cater of the African National Congress, a well-grounded cater who cannot be bought to support negative agenda that are there. But if these matters are not necessarily addressed, we run the risk of liquidating this glorious movement. And like the statement was quite explicit in terms of how then do we deepen the renewal of the African National Congress and accelerate the resolution of the energy crisis to end load shedding and boldly mobilize all the social partners around the economic reconstruction and recovery in order to increase job creation, investment, and empowerment, but also to improve delivery of basic services and maintaining the infrastructure that we have, and to ensure that we strengthen the fight against crime and corruption. Of course, it is important for ANC to call for the speedy implementation of the recommendation of the Commission of Inquiry on State Capture, which is more inward looking to enhance its integrity and social standing. What is key is for the African National Congress to ensure that it becomes more outlooking in terms of the approach of issues. Of course, the ANC reaffirms its long-standing principle that corruption is the enemy of the people and is therefore counter-revolutionary and reactionary, and it must be combated and defeated. And that is the spirit in which I think the African National Congress is dealing with this. But I think also sometimes we are hard on ourselves about the issue of the corruption, which I think preoccupy our programs. Most of the time, we spend much of the time dealing with this issue of corruption, and we forget about about other strategic issues that are confronting us as an organization, but also as the governing party. I'm saying this, I think, if you juxtapose the fact pertaining to the revelation of the Auditor General of South Africa, who graphically showing corruption as a monstrous beast that devoured the entire country on city of Tshwane, which is under the Democratic Alliance and its coalition partners. There, the ANC is not involved, but no one is saying anything because it is not the ANC-led metro, but we're always hard on ourselves. We are not saying that we need to condone the issue of the corruption. And here, I think the simplest reality is that how corruption has engulfed the city of Tshwane, how some of the opposition members have falsified their qualification and seem it is normal. But if it is a person from the ranks of the African National Congress, it hogs negative media headlines. And the stark reality is that trusted people become corrupt with power, fame, wealth, and influence. This cross-stitch and unsavory acts should be condemned by all. But the issue here is that corruption is more of a social issue. What the people, I think, need now is the tangible deliverables that I think when you are voted on the basis of the manifesto that you present. And our ability to build a developmental state, to transform society, so that we are able to deliver. And those are some of the things that I think people are looking at. And without taking much of your time, perhaps I have to come and localize all these things and see how best it suits us as the province. For instance, after the novel COVID-19 pandemic, which was quite endemic, was that the provincial administration developed what we call the socio-economic recovery plan and the infrastructure, or what we call the industrial master plan, to industrialize and to accelerate service delivery and to create some job opportunities within the length and the breadth of this province. But also the province has what we call the Limpopo Development Plan, which I think its aim is to ensure that it's anchored on the three critical competitive advantages that we have as a province, like your issue of the agriculture, your issue of mining, because our province is endowed with mineral resources, and the issue of the tourism, which I think for now we're at the top in terms of the tourism. People are not aware that Limpopo owns 70% of Kruger National Park, but how best are we marketing that Kruger National Park to our advantage? Because sometimes people say that when they come to Kruger National Park, they say that they go to Mpumalanga, which I think Mpumalanga is only about 20% of it. And what are the catalytic projects that I think we need to initiate to ensure that we transform the socio-economic trajectory in the province? Firstly, I think the provincial government has initiated what we call Musina Makato strategic economic zones, which I think it's going to focus more on the metallurgical and industrialization of that particular part of the province, so that it can, if it takes a traction, it can create about 20,000 or so of job opportunities there. And that's one thing that I think we need to pursue. But the other thing that I think we need to follow up is around the issue of what do you call it, the Fetago Mutubatsi strategic economic zone, which also have a potential to turn the situation around as part of catalyzing the economic opportunity that are there for mining input supplier park,
whereby majority of the people will benefit out of the mineral resources that we have at that part in terms of beneficiation, more especially the issue of SMME, because what is also critical is that we have to strengthen the enterprise ecosystem of the SMMEs, because in number of the countries that are very successful, 80% of the economy is invested in the SMMEs and the cooperatives. But in our case, you'll find that the SMMEs are about 10%, which I think is one thing that has to be corrected. But the other issue is that how best do we leverage on the mining opportunities that we have in the province? Because when a mine is applying for a license, for instance, for prospects and so forth, they have what we call the social labor plans. How best do we ensure that those social labor plans are integrated in the IDPs of municipalities? Because that is very key in the sense that we'll be able to quantify whether they honor those things that they said that before they open the mine, these are the things that they're going to do and so forth. And it seems that there is no diagnostic tool that I think we're using. And those are some of the measures that I think we're trying to introduce to ensure that we follow up in terms of the mining activities. The other thing in terms of the mining is around the issue of the illegal mining activities that are there, the zamazamas. Because these ones, they rob the economy in terms of the revenue that I think we're supposed to generate. But this is quite a challenging situation because these people cannot conduct these illegal mining activities without the market. It means that there is a value chain that I think has to be broken if we have to deal with that. Police are trying their best, but I think there are many people who are involved in that activities and so forth. Those are some of the things that we can't be the Limpopo that when we look at the poverty index, we are very high, but we are endowed with the mineral resources that we have and the proliferation of the mining activities in the province. And we are not leveraging on those things. And we are one of the poorest of the poor in terms of the province. And we have to deal with those matters because they are very serious. The issue of the unemployment, if you look at the state South Africa, they are saying that is 6%. But from the academic point of view, we have what we call the expanded unemployment, which I think it can be something like 44 to 46%, which I think in a country of ours, it can lead to the social uprising, which I think all of us, we don't decide. But we're also one of the predominantly agricultural province or a rural province. And one of the things that I think we are not doing enough is around the Z22, which is the world huge tomato producing market. But we don't have the agro processing market in the province for those things. You buy tomatoes also from other countries, whereas they are being produced here in the province. And those are some of the dynamics. And then you have all these things of the farming, all the vegetations that you have, the fruits that are not in other provinces, they're here, but they are produced somewhere else. The issue of the tourism, like I said, we can't have the tourism if we don't have what you call the defined tourism route, that when people are visiting Limpopo, they must know where to visit. And the other issue is, like I said, that our province is predominantly rural. We need to venture into a situation whereby we implement what we call TRAP, township and rural economic program, because the economy is becoming more rural. That's why you will see the mushrooming of your malls and shopping centers and the crossing malls and so forth. That's why I think we need to invest more energy and resources, because people are now leaving the urban areas to the rural areas for investment. And that's where we can turn the situation around. And also there is the program of industrialization, whereby we have industrial parks like Sediko to revitalize and revive those 293 townships that we used to have during the apartheid or the homeland, or what do you call it, the R54 from the Transvaal administration, that I think they are not being revived. If you look into Amatete, Mamangweng, Sediko, Leboagomo, they are becoming some of the deteriorating towns or townships. We need to have a way of ensuring that we revive and revitalize the economies of those townships, so that they become more attractive. But also, as the province, we're able to crowd in about 209 billion rands, which is a commitment by investors. But like I normally say, that this is a checkbook. A checkbook can bounce. That we need to follow, to say whether these things are being implemented, these commitments, how many are they being implemented? Where are these investments, so that we are able to benefit our own people? Just in the second standard, we're able to mobilize or crowd in about 34.9 billion rands of this investment. And if we add it from the one that we had before of 209 billion rands, and there are a number of people who are interested to invest in Limpopo. But one of the things that they're asking is about the reliability of the energy. That's why we're investing more on the renewable energy in Makato, Mosina, SEZ. The other issue is around the water. One of the things that I think we need to fast track is around the issue of unlocking all the blockages of Kiani Dam, because that project, I think, if it can be resolved, it has a potential or a propensity to assist us in terms of the economic spin-offs that we have. And the hope dam, that the dam has been there, is complete, but people are complaining that they are not accessing that water. And the other thing that I think we need to change in terms of the paradigm shift of the economy is that why can't we then make the hope dam our own heart the PS, and this CEO of mines being given an opportunity to invest there in terms of tourism, but the integrated human settlement that has to be there. But also the people need more of an infrastructure atlas. Are our roads accessible? There has been this dream of a speed train that has been initiated. And those are some of the things that I think as the provincial government we are trying to follow as the ANC-led government. And the other thing that I think we have to deal with is the municipality, because the municipality is owning the space. And if they are not well governed, then there will be that boycott by the investors, because they don't want to invest where there is no stability in terms of the municipalities and so forth. And I think basically those are the areas that are the salient areas or pertinent issues that I wanted to raise, so that we create more time in terms of discussion, so that we focus more on the January statement, and without being exhaustive in terms of the details of the January 8 statement, as the ANC was celebrating 111 years. but also the creation of a new cater. How best do we select our catership in terms of public representative, in terms of the capacity that they have to advance the economic revolution that we need. And one other thing that I think the statement is emphasizing is the issue of the expropriation of the land without compensation, which is one issue that I think has to be pursued, because we stand to benefit as the province, because it's one of those provinces that I think have been deprived the opportunity in terms of the land ownership. And the issue of the hydrogen has been raised in the very same statement. And I think the issue of the Fetahomotuba come handy, because one of the Apex projects that they are going to implement, despite the fact that they also have the mining input park, whereby the SMMEs, I think, will have to be participating. And the benefit of it is also they have land. It's not like in Makato Mosina that they are still battling in terms of packaging the land and so forth. But I think the plans are there. The only challenge that I think we have to do, if we have to win the 2024 election, is to ensure how best we reposition, reimagine, and retool the province so that it strategically achieve and attain all these issues that people are complaining about. The issue of the load shedding, because the people see it as an ANC matter, despite the fact that the towns have just approved some developments without considering the capacity of the water that they have, the sanitation, and the electricity. That now the electricity grid is being burdened and so forth. I think in a nutshell, those are some of the issues that I wanted to raise, so that from this academic platform, we have to engage, and but also to give some comparative analysis in terms of how other revolutions failed because of these challenges that I think we're experiencing, and we're not able to be resolved by the governing party. So what we are saying that the African National Congress is in what you call existential crisis and experiencing some electoral decline. So it has to recapture that spirit of becoming more hegemonic and more relevant, so that people are able to follow it and still have a confidence in it, so that we don't experience the confidence or the trust deficit that is there in the country currently and obtainable. And the leadership that must always be there to provide the stewardship for the country, and the hope that we have to create to ensure that we're still a liberation movement. We're not yet a political party, but also we're a governing party that all the people are looking at for the resolution of their challenges. I think that this Sediko, let me pause there and allow comrades to engage, but to engage the January 8, but also if there's some economic potential that they see in the province, they must also assist us because you can also isolate us in some of the responsibilities that we have in government. And we can then say that, abdicate our responsibility to say that, no, those are the government things, they are not the ANC things. All these things, I think, we are the ANC-led government. We must take the responsibility so that we are able to account on every action or inaction that I think people are expecting. There is a lot of the money that has been allocated, and people are expecting that we change their livelihoods for the better. And that's what the ANC, as the leader of the society, is standing for. And as a strategic force of the left, people are expecting the radical socio-economic transformation in their lifetime. Thanks very much, Sediko.
Thank you so much, Comrade Rodgers, for your submission. Let me just try to summarize what you've said before I take hands from colleagues who are part of this webinar. You have indicated that the ANC, as a strategic force of the left, in its January statement for 2023, spoke more about improving delivery of basic services and maintaining infrastructure, particularly within the municipalities. Also, you've indicated the issue that the ANC has indicated that it needs to strengthen the fight against crime and corruption, mobilize social partners around economic reconstruction. And in terms of Limpopo, you have highlighted 3 key things, which is agriculture, mining, and tourism. You've spoken about accelerating the resolution on energy crisis and also the deepening the renewal of the ANC. And when you come to agriculture, the other thing that you have raised is about the issue of land, because you cannot do agriculture without land. You cannot do mining without land. You cannot do tourism without land. All things, this economic impetus that you have indicated revolves around the issue of land. That has been your summary. And we thank you so much, Comrade Rodgers, for availing yourself every time when we have got these webinars and we come to you and say, can you come and just explain certain issues from the African National Congress. As a political head of ANC in Limpopo, you are always available to come and present. So colleagues, that was the presentation in terms of localizing the January 8 statement, taking it from the national level and bringing it to the residents of Limpopo. So I'll allow people to raise their hands. We'll take 3 at a time. Then we'll allow Comrade Rodgers to respond. We have got a time limit because we need to stop at 7 o'clock. Please be short on your question or comment. Then Comrade Rodgers will respond. Thank you so much, colleagues. Those who want to say something, please raise your hand. Then we can now take inputs from your side. First we'll take Munari. Munari will be the first. I don't know who will be the second. While we are waiting for other comrades or colleagues to raise their hands, Munari, you can go on.
Thank you. And Kanyan, compliments and Kanyan, I want to zoom into our district. Allow me to zoom in into our district, being Skuku. We are having a problem. I'm talking this from experience, Kanyan, and I guess saying we've got 2 infrastructures, the dams being the Hope and the Provincial. But still, we're having problems in terms of access to water in the entire district. I think in terms of the 2 infrastructures that we have, being the Hope and Provincial, and see how best maybe it can assist the district, the entire district. If you can check the entire district, but we've got 2 dams which were constructed and still they're deemed to be functional, but yet what have I made? I think that's the first. The other one is capacitization. I think our municipalities, being our district and our locals, need to be capacitated in terms of personnel, like skilled personnel. Maybe if from the government, if sort of like a panel of experts, you come up with an economist, you come up with someone from health, all the professions, and then it becomes a team, and then they capacitate the municipalities in terms of the personnel who are working within the same municipalities. I think that will improve the services delivery in our district. Again, I'm just saying that, and maybe in Kanaga Lankaga or la Lamfa guideline in terms of that. But the most critical one, mates is a very critical thing in our district. You start but one or to but the services or the networks are there, the infrastructure on but for mates I think that is the one. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Munari. Any other hand for comment, questions before we give it over to Comrade Rodgers? Dr. Fred Mpepu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rakolot, and the compliments of the new season to everyone. Just a comment around the water, and thanks a lot, Rodgers, for such a wonderful presentation. And I concur in what you have said regarding mining. I think we must maximize. And one of the things, Mr. Rakolot, I mean, there was an mining, energy, and industrialization investment which takes place every year, and I think we must fully participate. I know that the province does participate there, SEZ also, and there's a huge potential on that. But of course, one of an enabler for socioeconomic development is water. But the challenge we have, you have got the Warp Dam, as the comrade has said, Flag Bushelo, you've got Nandoni Dam. They are all overflowing, they are full. But the challenge is infrastructure. So I know that people, when they say there's infrastructure, they mean that there are pipes around the community, therefore they should be expecting water. But what you have is that, for example, if you look at Flag Bushelo, you have got a capacity of 16 megaliters per day. That's not enough. And that's why we need to improve that plant to go to even 32 megaliters per day. And in future, probably even 50 or 60 megaliters per day. That's what is happening. Even if you look at Nandoni, Nandoni is sitting, the plant is 60 megaliters per day, but we need to improve that to 120 megaliters per day to give Bembe water, as well as part of Capricorn and Mopani, in order for us to take water to Mopani. So you have a situation where you've got water, but we do not have the infrastructure, especially when it comes to water treatment plant that have got capacity to deliver water to our people. But the other things that I think the province and we need to deal with is this allocation of water to agriculture as well as mining, more than allocation to people. And I urge the comrades to look at that, because that's one of the challenge where even when you said you want water from, I will give you Ebenezer, for example, or Oliphantsport, you find that you can't have that allocation to our people because agriculture has taken a lot of that water, or has been allocated historically, of course, but those licenses are still sitting there, and Department of Water and Sanitation will not give you that access. But I just thought in terms of water, I must just give that thought in Tatarakolot and comrades here. But there are issues, of course, that needs to be dealt with, including the fact that we must find our municipality functional. It's very important because they deal with reticulation, but also we must have Lepelle Northern Water being at its best to ensure that it provides bulk water services to all the municipality. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fred Mpepu. And for those who don't know who Dr. Fred is the chairperson of Lepelle Water Board. My former colleague, Dr. Fred Mpepu. Thank you so much. Any other hands before we take in Comrade Rodgers? All right, Comrade Rodgers, over to you.
No, thanks very much, Sediko, and let me also thank colleagues for being robust and frank about what are the systematic deficiencies that we're experiencing to unlock all the blockages to ensure that our people access basic services, but also to ensure that their livelihood is being improved. And thanks very much for the comments. The comments are quite positive. We can't outsource our responsibility as the governing party. So we have to ensure that we transform the socio-economic landscape of our province, but we have to do what is expected out of us as leaders, I think. As leaders, we must always be available to ensure that we provide the necessary solution to all the challenges that are confronting our people. Comrade Monara, I think you are quite correct about the dynamics and the demography that I think you have around Sekhukhune. If we say that we have the who of them, which is overflowing, like Dr. Mpipu has said, but the people are not benefiting. And there is that investment of the infrastructure, but people cannot access water. What is the water treatment mechanisms that are there in place to ensure that people access potable water? For instance, in Sekhukhune, there is this thing, I think people are just raising it sometimes without not necessarily understanding the economic spin-offs that it can bring to that part of the country. The issue of the relocation of the Sekhukhune offices from Leboakgomo to Jane Fairs. That thing has a huge economic potential in the sense that firstly, people who have to do internship, the issue of the retail markets and so forth, in terms of strengthening what we call the enterprise ecosystem. Many people are going to benefit out of that, people who have accommodation, but also people will then, the revenue enhancement of the municipality will also derive a lot of benefit out of that if you have to do the cost-benefit analysis out of the relocation. So the relocation of the offices of the Sekhukhune is quite urgent. And of course, the issue of the flag we shield, I think Dr. Mpipu was spot on in terms of those things. The licenses that are given to the mining houses and the farmers, they get more water authorized for them to use, but we don't have water for consumption, which is one of the things that I think it has to be properly handled if perhaps we don't want to experience some revolt or a part of the revolution. I think one of the things that is the capacity of the municipality that is key and fundamental on the basis that the National Development Plan talked about what we call the developmental state. You can't realize a developmental state if you don't have a capable, ethical, and competent public service servants that you need to have. And that's where I think the issue of the professionalization of the municipality has already been initiated to ensure that even now, if you check the Municipal Systems Act, it has been revised to ensure that only capable managers like your Section 56 and 57 employees. There are some criteria and competencies and expertise that are being looked into so that I think is to deal with the bottlenecks and the red tapes that I think people are experiencing. And we're not just identifying Monama as a generalist to become a director for economic development in municipality. For instance, in all these municipalities, the analysis that we have conducted is that the LED in municipalities is not taken serious. You just take person, for instance, if I was a teacher, you take me and say that I must lead.
Comrade Rodgers?
There are two major international events that I think you attend. That's the one in Durban and the other one is in Cape Town. And those are the things that the councillors, not necessarily councillors, with councillors I don't have a problem with because they are political hate. They attend those events and from there are many things that are happening
in terms of supporting your spaza shops and so forth. But also when you look in our township and rural economic program that we have, as the department, for instance, for LIDET, we issue the license for businesses. But 5 years down the line, the business license owners are no longer the same, and the conditionality of those licenses are not being observed, because you find suddenly the shop that you have approved is no longer having the necessary ventilation, and the food is there. People has to eat it there. And you find that the foreign nationals, without being xenophobic, they are the ones who are owning these passes in our township. And suddenly we have what we have just partners with your Coke of this world and NEF and SAFER funding that can assist us for our youth to leverage on those rare opportunities that are there. For other things is that how do we have so huge mining resources in Sekhukhune, for instance, but becomes one of the poorest or a poverty-stricken district? Why can't you have your smelters there where all these minerals that you are producing there and mining are being processed there so that people are able to have job opportunities? I think you are spot on, and I can agree more with you. Dr. Mpepu got the issue around Yuanamdoni and Nzani, that has been changed from Nzanisi, Hudson and Nzanisi, and now is something else, but it's not producing water for the people of Guyana and surrounding and the adjacent areas. And the issue of the allocation of water. I think as the ANC, firstly, we have to take the responsibility that we are government, we are governing party. So there is a lot of overwhelming expectation from us to ensure that we deliver. I think 3 decades in governance, I don't think we still have some excuses why we can't deliver. But also we must show the cause why people should follow us. Otherwise they'll follow wrong prophets who promise them everything that the ANC is failing you. Why are you following this ANC? Now and then is ANC government failing. The issue of the corruption, I think one of the things that I think we need to confront on is the issue of the corruption in terms of the infrastructure investment. That I think the issue of the quality there. You build the road today, tomorrow, the road leaves the tar road, the tar leaves the road. And those are some of the challenges that I think we have to deal with. The issue of the performance framework of all the deployees is very key. And that's what I think the January 8, as we celebrate 111 years, is emphasizing about accountability ecosystem of all the deployees that we have, to account to say what are the things that they are doing to ensure that they improve the livelihood of our own electorates who had following on us because of the electoral manifesto that we have produced, that these are the things that we are going to do. But if we successfully fail, these people, I think, will be in the wrong side of the history. So it is important that I think we have to renew this organization so that it's able to appeal to our own people to say that this is the organization of Oliver Tambo, this is the organization of Mandela, and this is the organization of Ramaphosa that must transform their socio-economic conditions. Those are the 2 questions that I think we have, but also the key priorities that I think the president has outlined. Those are the things, if we can deepen the renewal process, but also to ensure that we deal with the issue of the basic services that the people are need. People no longer eat slogans. They need tangible deliverables, like I said. And that's the spirit and the purport in which I think the manifesto is trying to echo to the country to say, now we are combat ready. We can't afford the situation whereby we fail our own people who have the trust on and confidence on us. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Comrade Rodgers. We take the last round of comments before we close. We're supposed to close at 7. Thank you, Comrade Rodgers, for giving us extra minutes. Any comments before we close? Blessings, YCL, Blessings, you're first. Blessings, you can go on.
Thanks, Chair, and good evening to our presenter and our colleagues. Well, thanks for the presentation. I think you have managed to localize it, given the opportunity and the challenge that we are faced with as Limpopo. But one critical element, since we have indicated the opportunity we as Limpopo that we may explore in terms of agriculture, tourism, and mining. I would love to dwell more on tourism and mining as looking at the background where I come from and also the experience maybe is the best teacher. I heard you maybe highlighting something about the developments taking place mostly in the municipality, wherein you indicated some challenges of those development that in the municipality as they approve, they don't check factors in terms of the capacity of water and also the electricity. I think one other critical element that I've seen in most of our municipality is the ignorance of the environmental impact. What are the development are to bring in terms of the environment, and also checking the capacity of our municipality in the province. Most of the municipality, they tend to ignore the issue of the environmental management section per se. They tend to reduce it to environmental health, of which environmental management section, it deals with the application of the EIA, which assists in the approval of whether the development should be approved. If they need approved, they should consider these kind of things in terms of the impacts. And I think those are the things that fall under your portfolio as the MEC. So those are some of the submissions that we just want to input on to say, let's check on that in terms of our municipality, just to capacitate them, like you have said, in terms of the LED, that they just take somebody who's not knowledgeable, who's not experienced or qualified, just put him there, and that's where we experience a lot of challenges. Also on other issues, the issue of tourism, you have indicated, I just want to localize it per se. Just to give one example, Kanyani, if then you drive on R87 going to Begasford, there is one of the ecotourism set that we used to take pride of called Potake. Now, if then you can go there and enter the state of that nature reserve is in a state of disarray. And opposite to it, there is a mining exploration. We don't know what led to that mining exploration to be approved, because it's just adjacent to the natural resource area which is protected. Those are some of the things that we just want to check. I'm glad that we indicated that to say Limpopo is one of the best in terms of tourism industry, to say we are occupied 70%, but mostly it's like we're only considered on the Puka National Park. Hence, we have got some other private and other state-owned nature reserve of which we can improve them, because we are trying to address the imbalance of the past. But whatever we got since the new dispensation of our democracy, those nature reserves that are now in the state of disarray, I think we can put much efforts on that, because those nature reserves, they were able to hire local people and they were able to take school learners to those areas so that they can learn about nature. Those are some of the submissions that I wanted to make in this platform. But otherwise, I accept the presentation, and the presentation was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blessings. Because there's no any other hand, and even the questions that were asked on the chat box, I think most of those questions have been responded to. Your closing remarks, Comrade Rodgers, and the closing remarks and responding to this.
No, thanks very much for the questions, and just to give a response on the question around environment. I think all of us, we can agree that there is what you call NEMA, National Environmental Management Act, that I think it has to be actualized in terms of approval of any development that take place, but also the tribunal that we have in the municipality for spatial or what you call the looms that are there in the municipality, that has replaced the spatial development framework as an obsolete issue. That is one key issue that I think we have to follow, so that we don't just approve. For instance, the land invasion, even in some protected areas, is one of the things that if we have to apply for PI Act, the eviction of those people that have been illegally put there is one issue that I think we have to deal with. I am agreeing with your good selves about the issue, what is happening about not only Potlake blessing, but when I arrived there, I said that they must give me the audit of all the nature reserves that we own. And the stats was very, very shocking, because all of them, they've been dilapidated, and we're busy trying to revitalize them and refurbish them so that they become more attractive, because people have been visiting those things, and they are more habitable than other places. And the lodges that we have as government, they used to be one of the busiest one, but also, like you correctly said, there are other heritage sites that I think we are not marketing. You are Jade, your Fundisi Lake, that is not there in other countries. But also you have the big five in the province that I think we are not necessarily marketing. You have Mayoma Pungubwe, which has a rich history, and your Makapani Valley and so forth. Those are some of the strategic areas that I think we are not necessarily marketing. And I think it is incumbent upon the Limpopo Tourism Agency that falls under it to ensure that they market this province. At least for the few months that we were there, we were able to turn the situation around to ensure that Limpopo reclaim its position one in terms of tourism, because to some extent we've been very quiet because of COVID. But now I think in terms of your visiting friends and families, the domestic tourism that we were depending more on international tourists. But I think the history has taught us now and the COVID that we need to invest more on inbound tourism rather than outbound tourism, which depends more on international tourists. But even the locals, our good selves, who are not visiting this heritage site, that I think, if one can ask, how many of us have ever visited Makoni Malapa, for instance, here in Polokwane? Very few, I think, should have been there. And there is a lot of historical material that you can learn about the history, the genealogy of those areas. But I think without talking much, what I can say is that I'm quite overwhelmed and humbled to be afforded this opportunity to discuss these topical issues that I think are life-changing in their nature. But what is key and fundamental is that as and when we are given responsibility, we must ensure that we have a catalytic or mega projects that I think will live as a legacy. And I think the Limpopo development plan and the socio-economic recovery plan and the infrastructure or industrial master plan, they are packaged, they are blueprint for us to ensure that really the situation can be turned around. What is key is that attitude always determines the altitude. And this is high time that I think people are waiting for us to provide the necessary leadership. And that leadership is not about hope. because people cannot eat hope, is to ensure that we deliver on basic services. And that's what is expected out of us as employees, as a public servant, and so forth. But the other things, Sediko, that we are not using. For instance, we have the 2 or 3 universities or institutions of higher learning, but we are not using them. How many theses and dissertations have been produced by the very same as part of the outputs? We are not using an interest to say, in terms of LED, how many students have done their doctorate or their masters in terms along those lines. And if you go there, you might find, but even in other provinces, we can just go there and learn. But also the issue of the benchmarking. What is it that I think we have to do? But the other issue is around the commitments that I think we have with other international partners or investors that wanted to come in South Africa. Are we following up on those commitments to see whether they are investing, and like the investment that we have crowded as the province, those billion rands, how best do we make sure that we follow them? But out of 209, in terms of the law of this country, the applicable legislation is say 30% of any investment must go to the locals. How do we then ensure that we leverage on those economic opportunities so that our own people benefit out of this arrangement and so forth, rather than Monama being the MSC, being the only one who is negotiating for a cut for himself at the expense of the people that I think are earmarked to benefit out of that. I think that is the spirit that I think the ANC is trying to advocate, that let's broaden the base of the economy so that all our people benefit, irrespective of their social standing. And these openings and opportunities that are there should be transparent and open so that people know how to excel in those areas that they are interested to become more millionaires that we have never produced. And those are some of the things that the parting shows that I wanted to leave. But I think the attitude is to ensure that we transform the socioeconomic trajectory or landscape of our province, but also to ensure that we take this province to the highest economic trajectory that all of us will be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Rodgers, and thanks, colleagues, for your participation. From the Progressive Socio-Economic Investment Institute, we want to propose the following to you, Comrade Rodgers, if it's possible, that as a head of the political education in the ANC, you assist us to get a speaker that will come and talk about the professionalization of the local government in Limpopo. Because all these economic activities and all these things that you're talking about, they happen at local government. The coal face of service delivery is the local government. And participants here have spoken a lot about professionalization of local government. So if we can get a representative from the ANC in Limpopo to come and talk about professionalization of local government. Secondly, our proposal will be, we've seen the provincial mining and energy investment. Maybe we should consider, or you should consider as government, localizing these investment summits. For instance, you have the Sekhukhune Mining and Energy Summit, localizing it there, linking it with the DDM model, so that the discussion will be revolving around that. Then you can have the other one of maybe Mining and Energy Summit in Vembe district or in Capricorn. For instance, if the other part of Sekhukhune is more on agriculture, your focus on that investment conferences will be about agriculture. Maybe then we can move somewhere in localizing this discussion and linking them to the DDM. On the issue of using our institution of higher learning, from the Progressive Socio-Economic Investment, personally from me, will send you a dissertation that I produced last year on the conflicts between the mining communities and the mining companies. I will send it to your office. And I know that as part of his MBA after getting a PhD, Dr. Fred has done a study on community mining trust. I'll talk to Dr. Fred on offline so that also he can send that dissertation to your office. Because as mining is one of the key economic actors within Limpopo, we need to have a scientific study around the issues involving mining. Dr. Fred has done a lot of study around mining community trust. I've done a study around issues of conflicts between the mines and the mining communities. And also, by the time we bring in somebody to talk about professionalizing the local government, I'll give that person my other dissertation that I've done on how to ensure that the ward committee system encourage community participation in the local government. Thank you so much for your time, colleagues, and thank you so much, Comrade Rodgers, for participating. And we thank you, colleagues, for every time when we organize these sessions, you participate. Thank you so much, and have a lovely